Welcome back to the coffee corner. Or should I say,
The confrontation corner.
because that's what we're talking about today. Confrontation corner spelled with 2 Ks because we have fun on this channel.
Confrontation.
16 personalities, 16 different ways of handling confrontation. Or confrontazione in Espanol. I know what you're thinking.
Oh, Frank, look, I know which types are confrontational and which types aren't.
Okay, smarty pants, yeah, if you were just using the stereotypes, thinking types are more confrontational than feeling types. But that's not the whole story. But don't let that fool ya. Many types have a sneaky way of being confrontational, and some types cause confrontations even when they don't mean to. Whether you were confrontational or not is based on your willingness to confront problems. And confrontation is not inherently bad or mean or aggressive. It's just seeing a situation and putting some pressure on others to make that situation more in line with what you want it to be. Many of the 16 personalities are only brought to this point of feeling the need to confront a problem in very specific circumstances, some of which are kind of surprising. Okay, let's start with the types that are most commonly thought of as being conventionally confrontational. The types that you are probably guessing right now. You're like,
Frank, come on, I know what you're gonna say next.
you do not. It's the TE dominant types, the ENTJ and ESTJ.
Frank, I knew you were gonna say that.
I am confronting you. These types have all the components of personality that lead to being the most willing to jump into a confrontation. They are extroverted, so they are not typically shy or reclusive. They are thinking types, so they might be less sensitive to others' feelings. And they are J types, so they are okay with voicing their opinions on how they believe things should be in the external environment. Extroverted thinking is often called the executive function, and this is why dominant TEs are statistically the most likely types to end up in high-end management or CEO positions. That's because executive positions require comfort with confrontation. These types clearly see what needs to get done, and they are willing to directly tell other people what to do in order to accomplish those things. Furthermore, because of their inferior introverted feeling, ESTJs and ENTJs can sometimes be blind to the emotional energy that they are creating with their words, which can lead them to bulldoze others in a confrontation. Next, let's look at the other thinking dominant types, the ISTP and INTP, who have introverted thinking, TI, as their dominant function. Introverted thinking, like TE, is concerned with logic and truth. The main difference is that TI cares more about internal logical consistency rather than getting a result in the outside world. So you could say that these introverted types tend to be defensively confrontational.
Well, Frank, what does that mean? Sounds like a term you just made up.
Stop confronting me about my made-up terms. What I mean by that is that they have a minefield of strong opinions, but they're not gonna shove it in your face. They're not even really gonna give you a map of the minefield. They will, however, quickly set you straight if you accidentally step on one of those strong opinion mines in the minefield that I have set up as an analogy. In other words, they will come at you if you directly challenge what they hold to be true. They will dismantle your dissenting opinions with laser precision. I don't have this much problem talking until I turn on the camera. Just goes to show you anyone can be a YouTuber. These types also have FE, extroverted feeling inferior, and this means that more than any of the other types, they tend to be unaware of social norms or values. They might accidentally say something that hurts someone else's feelings when pointing out how what they said doesn't make sense. They don't do it to be mean. They do it because the truth is the most important thing to them, and they cannot stand anything that doesn't make sense to them. So logical inconsistencies are what they will confront consistently. So the 4 types we talked about so far all have dominant judging functions, specifically thinking. Now, let's change gears and talk about the EP and IJ types who have dominant perceiving functions. The perceiving functions, intuition and sensing, don't make decisions about information. They just collect and organize the information. So that is why for the EPs and IJs, their secondary function, which is thinking or feeling, will play the larger role in what kind of confrontations they get wrapped up in. You know, also interestingly, for the EPs and IJs, their second and third function are thinking and feeling. Thinking is either second or third, feeling is either third or second. They're relatively balanced, as all things should be. I know I'm getting a bit advanced with the cognitive function talk, so if you want my comprehensive introduction to cognitive functions, watch this video in the card above my head, and you will be caught up to speed. But essentially, thinking and feeling as the two middle functions makes these types really good at comparing their opinion with other people's opinions and maybe even finding common ground. This can come in really handy and allows these types to navigate confrontation with a little bit more finesse than the EJs and the IP. SE dominant types, ESTP and ESFP, are going to care the most about realistic, down-to-earth situations or problems. These types are all about what is obvious, what is right in front of our face. Let's pay attention to that info because it's right there for everyone to see. So an ESTP, for example, might very willingly get into a confrontation with you over what is the best computer for gaming. They will throw all the technical specifications at you and be able to explain why it's obvious that their computer choice is the best. Meanwhile, an ESFP is more likely to get into a confrontation over something value-driven. If you are planning an event with them, for example, they may be very direct, even confrontational with you about design choices, what the colors are gonna be, what music is gonna play, how do they feel about the obvious sensory world. This is similar for the NE dominant types as well, the ENFP and ENTP, but these types will see things in a more abstract sense. The ENTP will argue over the correctness of a theory. They might get into my comments section and say,
Frank, the way you explain the 16 personalities is logically flabby.
they'll be like, what about this? What about this? What about this?
And this, and this, and this, and this.
I'm an NF type, cut me some slack. Using your type as an excuse? Check. An ENFP will get worked up more about how people value various abstract concepts. So let's say there's a movie and the ENFP loves how it's got this ending that leaves so many things open to interpretation. But if you tell them, actually no, it's a pretty closed ending and it means this, this, and this, they will fight you. Now let's look at the introverted perceiving types, the IJ types. But you know, I'm kind of hungry. Luckily, this next segment, sponsored by Factor, is going to provide me with a delicious, fresh, hot lunch designed by a team of gourmet chefs. Let's go! Wait a second, who are you? I'm Jank Frames, pleased to meet ya. Look, this is a really bad time. I'm supposed to tell everyone about the fresh, never frozen meals from Factor. Maybe you could make me a meal, I'm awful hungry. All I've had to eat today is a piece of burnt toast I found on the floor of a taxi cab. Okay, yeah, let me heat up a delicious Factor meal for you. And don't take too long, fool. In the oven, it only takes 7 to 10 minutes. And in the microwave, it only takes 2. Sing a song, fool. What?
Factor's got a lot of variety with options like keto, low-carb, vegan, and veggie. You know I'm a busy guy.
Are you?
I am, but Factor makes dinner time so easy.
Now throw that hot food in my face. I am not gonna do that. Head to go.factor75.com/FrankJames120. Use code FrankJames120 for $120 off. So what do you think? I think I'm gonna do what you just said to do and head to go.factor75.com/FrankJames120 and use code FrankJames120 to get $120 off. And are you gonna leave now? Yes. Okay. For real though, I was a Factor customer before this sponsorship and I love their food. And yes, I eat all my meals in this position. I didn't like it. Cool. Thanks to Factor for sponsoring that segment of the video. Now back to my regular content. The IJs are a bit strange because while they tend to be reserved and quiet, from time to time they can come off as confrontational to others because they have that J preference, which if you'll recall, leads them to be more open in voicing their opinions on what things should be like. For another video going more in depth into these types and their paradoxes, if you will, check out which is the most misunderstood personality type in the card above my head. Kind of went British there, card above my head. First of all, I like to think of the ISTJs as defenders and the ISFJs as nurturers. So if you leave the ISTJs castle alone, they won't bother you. But if you start poking at it, if you throw a wrench in their established way of doing things, they will bring out the catapult. Let's say an ISTJ has their Saturday morning routine of mowing the lawn at 9 a.m. sharp. But then Friday afternoon, you ask to borrow their mower. You best believe if you do not have their mower back to them in plenty of time for them to cut their grass at 9 a.m., they will read you the riot act, which means they will get angry and confront you. Same with the ISFJ. If you leave their plant alone, they are happy and patient, but they will get confrontational quickly if you threaten the thing that they have steadfastly nurtured. For example, let's say for example an ISFJ loves collecting comic books. They've got bookshelves full of them and they can tell you exactly what they have and where it is on the shelf. And if you say to them, man, maybe you should sell some of these and make some money, you will see the ISFJ get about as in your face as an ISFJ gets. In other words, they will confront you. They will bring you to the confrontation corner, sit you down. I don't know what will happen next, but in I dominant types, the INFJ and INTJ strive to bring an idea or plan plan they have into reality. Much like the SI types we just talked about, as long as you don't interfere with this process, they aren't likely to be confrontational. But if you happen to place yourself in the way of their goal or prevent them from bringing their idea to fruition, they will push back. Because introverted intuition is like, what is the future gonna be? And it's a very one-track kind of future. This is where I see things going for years to come. So if you mess with that, if you're like, actually no, let's go this other way, it's not good. Let's say, for example, an INTJ is developing a new productivity app. It's an idea they've probably had simmering for years. If anyone tries to mess with their vision, like if an investor says, oh yeah, I'll give you money for this, but make it a dating app instead, the INTJ will forcefully defend their creative vision. Likewise, an INFJ might see how a community could come together to accomplish a goal, but they will get frustrated when other people won't get on board, or worse, start challenging the INFJ's insight. INFJs will push back on others for not caring about the right thing. They'll be like, dude, you should care about this stuff in our community, and you should get on board with my long-term vision. Get on the train, it's about to leave the station. To these types that have introverted perception dominant, both NI and SI, their visions and perceptions are like their babies, and they don't like to let others mess with them. Finally, we have what you would probably think of as being the least confrontational types, the feeling dominant types. That's the ESFJ, ENFJ, ISFP, and INFP. That doesn't mean these types can't be confrontational though. They just have a different way of getting to that point. The FE dominants, the ESFJ and ENFJ, tend to be very concerned with the well-being of the larger group that they are a part of. So if they see injustices, if the people they care about are sad or hurt, or if they aren't feeling like an appreciated member of their group, they can organize people around them to change things. In a way, these types go about it like, I can't be confrontational on my own, but when I've got my posse behind me, it's go time, baby. Because if these types have people behind them, they're like, well, look, I know everyone else is backing me. I know everyone cares about this thing that I am confronting you over. You don't want to get in the middle of that. The FI dominant types, the ISFP and INFP, are probably the most unique when it comes to conflict. You might suspect them to be the least confrontational, and to some degree, this is true. They generally want to get along with everyone, but their feeling is subjective. That means it's personal, and usually it's not movable. When I say movable, if we compare these types to other feeling dominants, the ones we just talked about, the ESFJ and ENFJ, who have extroverted feeling, those types are way more movable. The ESFJ and ENFJ might come across as a bit more intense at first and maybe even very opinionated, but it's not unusual for them to change how they feel about something if it gets them more in line with how everyone around them feels. The INFP and ISFP, total opposite of that. Of all the types, the FI dominant types are the least likely to budge on things that matter to them. Doesn't matter if all their friends feel the opposite way about something or say, oh, maybe you should do something else. These types will not change their feelings based on the feelings or opinions of others. This causes a unique effect, because while the FI dominant types don't go looking for confrontation, their lack of any desire to fit in or follow the rules or even just do stuff they don't feel like doing makes conflicts come to them. And usually by that time, they're exploding in your face. It reminds me of the Howlers in Harry Potter. Am I remembering this right? So it's like the parents of the kids who are going to Hogwarts would sometimes send their kid an angry letter called a howler, and the longer the kids waited to open the letter, the more it would glow or something, and then it would like explode when you finally opened it, and it would have like the voice of the parent being like, I told you, you terrible, I hate you, I'm gonna disown you. It's just like very abusive letter. J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter books, is herself an INFP, and in many ways she was describing the INFP and ISFP experience with confrontation. These types don't want to force their opinions on others, but in return, they expect that others won't even try to force their opinions or priorities on them. But that's not how the world works, unfortunately. So you get INFPs and ISFPs who just ignore a problem. They will act like they agree with you, but then go off, do the opposite thing, and then stop returning your text. That is why it's a common experience for these types to have people regularly confront them and be like, What is your problem? Because they've been avoiding the confrontation for as long as possible. What would I hate about being alone with each of the 16 personalities? For the juicy answer to that question, watch this video right here. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay cool and attractive.